Hey, back again today with another deck box opening and review. This is going to be for the Robotech collectible card game New Generation starter deck. This is one of the very last decks released. There was one that came after this, the Robotech Masters deck, and let's just get right into it. I'm lucky to actually be able to hold this in my hands here. I don't physically own this myself. It's one of the two decks that I don't own, but it was kindly gifted to me by a friend on the internet through a very lucky post I found many years ago and responded to it. And he wasn't willing to sell. He was happy to still own them, but he was willing to let me borrow it for the purposes of review and scanning it to upload to the website. So happy to have a copy of this in hand. Thought I'd get a quick review of it in before we return it back to him and send it back on its way. Inside the box here, you do get two decks. This is a two-player starter deck. There's two 25-card decks included, as well as a couple new rule cards, which is nice. And lastly, there is a rule sheet / playmat included as well. It's the same sheet that we looked at before, just rules, very vague play sheet on the back, all in black and white. Nothing necessary there. A couple important things about this one, though. It does include some rules. This adds some rules for vessels as well as locations. These were not included in the original rules. Vessels essentially can fight each other. They are, simplest way to explain it is they are too big to shoot at little robots. They just attack each other. The mecha cards can attack vessels, but vessels can't attack them. And then locations are kind of the same thing. Locations are just pretty much vessel cards that can't attack. But while they're on the board, they have effects. They give you other options for combat and a little bit more defensive play. And then there's a rule change sheet that essentially just says that these two cards now exist. And this rulebook here is actually a later sheet, 0.995, that adds some rules about locations and vessels, like these cards here. As opposed to being just cards, they are included in this little rule sheet too. But if we just get right into the deck, there are two decks included here. There's a 25-card New Generation Rebel Forces deck and a 25-card Invid deck. We'll go ahead and look at the Rebel Forces deck first. First off, we get Annie LaBelle. She's a civilian, so not actually a pilot herself. She's a Rebels faction card. Discard a New Generation card from your hand, and New Generation action effects have one less cost this turn. So she essentially lets you use all of your actions a turn earlier. Search your deck for a male character card, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle your deck. This is actually a really good card. A 0 cost that you can just pitch to search your deck for any male character, put it in your hand, is really strong by itself. These later decks did give you a lot more of these kind of deck filtering cards, which do help a lot with deck building. But the effect of making your actions cost one less is strong too. You got Lancer. He's a lieutenant pilot. Lancer can be male or female. There's a lot more to me than meets the eye. You can run with that as you like. Gives you +1/+1. Search your deck for a civilian character card, reveal it, put it into your hand, shuffle your deck. So if you wanted, you could pitch this as an action to get this, to go find a different male character. So it gives you a nice bit of cycling that you can do. But really, it's just a 2-cost +1/+1 pilot. Male or female. That does help a little bit for some effects that say, like, if you're fighting against a male, do X or Y, or vice versa. So this is kind of nice in that regard. Then you got Lunk, 0-cost pilot. Turn this card face down, put it in your protozone. Whenever your target mecha is destroyed this turn, it goes to your hand. So he just helps you keep cards in play. If one of them would die, you can just put him into your energy and keep that card, or at least get it back to your hand so you can play it again. Otherwise, as an action, whenever your target mecha is destroyed this turn, put it in your hand. He has the same effect if he's in your hand or in play. The downside if he's in your hand is that he doesn't go into your energy. We've got Pilot Rand, 1-cost +1 weapon. Discard a New Generation card, put him back in your base zone. So he essentially can like eject from the pilot seat of a mecha that he's in. Say it would be destroyed, you're not going to win in battle, you can keep him. You can search your deck for Rook, reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle your deck. And there you go, there's Rook. +1/+1. If Rook is the only pilot you control in a battle zone, she can't be destroyed. search your deck for Rand, reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle your deck. So they're a nice little combo to find each other. She's a little bit later card, turn 2 instead of 1 energy, but she's still +1/+1 instead of his just regular +1. Slightly better pilot. We've got Scott Bernard, Lieutenant Commander, the title character off of the box art itself. It's my turn. It's my turn at bat, my fine friends. All his cards in the battle zone, all the rebel units get +1 weapon. He gives you +2 weapon and +1 armor, 3 cost. This is actually a really good pilot. +2/+1 is really strong anyway, and to give everything else +1 weapon is really powerful. As an action, you can just give a unit +2/+1, so even if you don't have the ability to play him, you can still get him out. Actually a really strong pilot. Great use of a rare slot. Synchro Cannon. This is your first mecha unit in the deck. It's Earth unit. Can only battle on land. It's solo. You can only have one of these in play. It's a 4/1/0 4 cost. You can advance it and turn your X face up cards face down. Proto cards, these are cards in your energy. You can flip face up ones face down. If you do, target opponent must send X proto cost unit to the discard pile. So you can just essentially flip your energy face down so they no longer have actions, but you can use that to remove X number unit instead of attacking. This is actually a nice little card too. Cyclone VR 038L. This unit gets +1 when attacking. It's a 1 cost, 3/1/1, or it does have a cycle mode where it would be a 2/1/2 if it was attacking. As an action, give unit +1 speed. This is kind of your generic 1 cost unit in the deck. You do get 2 copies of that. Cyclone VR 041H. This is another cycle unit, 2/1/0, 1/1/1. You can discard X cards. This unit gets X weapon. Can only be used once per turn and can't exceed 2. So you could discard 2 cards to make him a 4/1/0 or a 3/1/1, or as an action, give a unit +1 weapon. Just another 1 cost unit. Nice sort of alternative option to the other Cyclone card. Getting into the Alpha Veritex, you got the Alpha VFA 6H. It's a 3/5/1, 5/3/2, 4/4/2. It can only be piloted by officers. Send your proto card to the discard pile. This gets +2 weapon. So you can essentially sack one of your energy, set yourself back a turn to give it +2 attack. But a 6/4/2 is really strong. So there is some merit to that. As a common, I can kind of see where it's not great to lose yourself in energy, but if you needed to push for game or to really beat a strong opponent, this would be a great card. As an action, target unit gets +2/+1. Good, powerful buff card as well. VF1A Scott. Can only be piloted by Scott Bernard, the character from the front of the box. This mecha gets +X weapon and +X armor, where X is the number of rebels you control in the battle zone. So if you remember, Scott gives you +2/+1, gives all of your other guys +1s, and then he gets +X for every one of those guys that you have in play, which are all also getting buffed by the guy you've already got on him. This could be a very strong unit. The Alpha VF1A 6I. 3/2, 4/2/2, 2/4/1. This mecha gets +1 armor if you control a rebel. So 3/4/2, 2/5/1, 4/3/2. Really defensive unit, really hard to kill. But target rebel character gets +1 weapon. Not that you would use that as an action. This would be a great defender. VF1A 6I Lancer. This can only be piloted by rebels. So this one's not specific to Lancer himself, herself, theirself. But if piloted, this mecha gets +X armor, where X equals the number of rebels you control in the base zone. As an action, target rebel gets +1 weapon bonus. Pretty solid card. Alpha VFA 6Z. This mecha gets +1 while you control a rebel, just like the last one. 2/2/2, 1/3/1, 3/1/2. Gives a unit +1 weapon, +1 armor. This one was +1 weapon. They're kind of the same card, but weapon instead of armor. Get 2 copies of that. VFA 6Z Rook. Can only be piloted by Rook. If piloted, this gets +X weapon, where X equals the number of rebels you control. This is just like Lancer's effect, but... Scott's effect, but for Rook. And it's a 3 cost, so it's a turn earlier. The Beta VFB9. This is 4 cost card. 4/1. Tumble over my words there. 3/5/0, 5/3/1. Big beefy stats on this unit. But its restriction is you have to send a proto card to the discard pile to put this card in play. So you have to sacrifice one of your own energy to be able to play this guy. But you can attach it to a VF1 or a VFA mecha you control to form one unit with +3 weapon, +2 armor. When this unit is destroyed, only this card is destroyed. So you could stick these guys together to make this, +3, +2, and then if it dies, you would just lose this card. That's pretty strong. It's essentially just an armor suit for the card that already exists, or you can play it as its own unit with its own stats. That's up to you. As a 4-cost, these are kind of your standard 4-cost unit stats, so it's nothing to write home about by itself, but as stacked on another armor, it's a pretty good effect. Then you've got the Shadow Drone, 1/1/2, 1/2/1, 1/2/0, 2/0/2. Requirement, you have to discard a new generation card to put this card in play. It can't be piloted and can only be affected by shadow technology modifiers and effects. 3-cost card. This card is not fantastic. It's safe in the sense that it can't be targeted by anything, so removal doesn't work on it. But as a 1/1/2 or a 1/2/0 or a 2/0/2 is a really weak card. And the fact that you can only have one of it in play, that's rough. Plus, you have to discard a new generation card to even be able to play it. I would just play the 1-cost units over this. It would just be stronger. Shadow Fighter. 4-cost, 2/2/2, 3/1/2, 1/3/1. Requirement, discard a new generation card to put this card in play. Can only be affected by shadow technology modifiers and effects. This is, again, the same kind of thing as the last card, but a 4-cost instead of a 3. Slightly stronger effect. Again, I don't think this is very good. It makes sense that these are commons. The Garfish class cruiser. 2-cost, 10 power, 8 strength, or 8 armor, 1 speed. Vessel gets +2 weapon while attacking vessels or locations. This is your first time that we've actually gotten to see a vessel in the actual videos here. You can search your deck for a mecha card, reveal it, and put it into your hand as an action. Nice way to fetch a unit if you really needed it to. But nice 10 attack. Good vessel. We do have another vessel here. Definitely your defender vessel. 0 attack, 8 defense, 1 speed. Send this vessel to the discard pile. Search your deck for an Alpha Veritech card and a Beta Veritech card. Reveal them, put them in your hand, and shuffle your deck. That's when you play the card, or when you discard it if it's already in play. Or as an action, you can search your deck for a Beta Veritech, reveal it, and put it in your hand. So this card, as a 1-cost, it sets up a great defender on turn 1. It's a huge defense. But it also does a good job of helping you set up the sort of Megazord that you get going on with the Alpha and Beta Veritechs combined for a big, beefy warrior there. 3-cost SDF4, 15/15/1. You have to control an officer to be able to play this. This vessel may intercept or any attack on your vessel or replace another vessel as the target of an effect. Or as an action, target vessel gets +2/+2. Powerful buff if you needed it to be, or a great vessel on the board. Powerful card. I don't know that it's incredibly great. I don't know you'd need 3 of it or anything, but this is a strong sort of top end, especially if you're planning a deck that needs to be prepared for any kind of vessel-based combat. This would be a nice one to have. Well, that's the first half of the deck there for New Generation. That is the New Generation Rebel Forces deck. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at the Invid deck that is included. For an action card in this deck, we didn't actually get any of those in that last deck, I don't think. But here's, we have a card called Enemy Occupation, 3-cost. You have to control an Invid mecha. Choose one. Target opponent turns a civilian face down and puts it in their protozone, or you negate a target location effect. Decent little card, just kind of prevents your opponent from using future effects, and the fact that you can face down one of their civilians means that you're face downing one of their energy as well as one of their constant effects. Nice little card. Metamorphosis, 5-cost. You have to control the Regis. Play only during your proto phase. Send target Invid Enforcer you control and a card in your protozone to the discard pile. If you do, you may play a pilot or an Invid commander from your hand to the base zone. So this is a nice card to be able to play a specific card that you would need. without actually having to pay the cost. Since it's an action, you just have to have this much energy. So it's a nice way to kind of get around needing to physically pay the cost of playing a pilot or a commander. And it also doesn't take your energy play for the turn to have played these guys. So this is actually a really cool card. Symphony of Light, 6 cost. What does that say there? Come on, go ahead and focus for me. You have to control the Regis. Regis? I don't remember exactly how you pronounce that word. But you can only play it if your opponent is the active player. When you play this effect, if you have 8 cards in your proto zone at the end of your opponent's turn, you win the game. Win the game card. This is kind of what the deck is built around. You're sort of building up to a point of putting energy in your energy area so that you can get this to trigger. But it does take a little bit to get to go off. Not an easy win the game card by any means. That being said, this Invid deck I do think would actually be quite good if you were to buy 3 of this starter deck. You could build a pretty strong deck out of this faction. Ariel has an effect your opponent must play with the top card of their deck revealed. That's just a great active effect. She is a civilian, so she just sort of stays in play, counts as energy, and makes your opponent always play with a card face up. Gives you a little bit of an advantage knowing what's coming up next. Transmutation. You control the Regis, play only during your mechanized step. Send target Invid Shock Trooper you control to your discard pile. If you do, you can play an Enforcer from your hand to the base zone. Another kind of way to get more of those pilots into play that you need to get to start working on that proto count. Korg, 4-cost officer, pilot, Invid. When it comes into play, target opponent can't play a proto card this turn. They can play characters, locations, or vessels. +2 weapon, +1 armor. Invid gets +2 weapon. Decent little buff, but his cool thing is that this turn your opponent can't play an actual energy. They have to play a location, vessel, or a pilot instead. If they don't have that, then they're out of luck for playing an actual for an energy for the turn. You've got a 0-cost Invid pilot. Basic, you can have as many of this in the deck as you'd like. It gets an additional +1 weapon bonus if you control the Regis, but normally it's just a +1 buff. You can pitch it to give a unit +1 armor. Good little 0-cost pilot. Great little turn 1 play. Sarah, when you're in the battle zone, while in the battle zone, Sarah's unit cannot be the target of your opponent's action effects played from the proto zone. Just a nice way to protect some of your cards. Gives +1 weapon, +2 armor. Great little defensive buff. The Regis itself. Discard an Invid character. Search your deck for an Invid character card. Reveal it, put it in your hand, and reshuffle your deck. It's a great way to cycle out the right pieces that you need to start building the sort of energy wall that you need to. Or you could pitch it as an action to draw a card. Not worth doing. Invid Hive. Focus for me, please. Discard an Invid card. Move target character, vessel, or location from your base zone to the proto zone face up. Now this is a location, so you can do that every turn. Anytime you want to discard a card, you can use this effect. Or you can send a card from your proto zone to the discard pile, put the top card of your deck into your proto zone as an action. If you had multiples of this, that might be a worthy action, but for now, this is definitely a card you would want to keep on the board and use it to start, ramping yourself to victory. Reflex point location, 20 defense. Flip face down, send any number of proto zone cards to your discard pile. If you do, put the same number of cards from the top of your deck in the proto zone. Search your deck for the Regis, reveal a card and put it into your hand, shuffle your deck. So a nice way to cycle out if you get cards stuck in the proto zone that you don't want them to be there. You'd like some different cards, different effects. This is a nice way to do that. Enforcer. This can't be piloted. It's just a 3-cost 5/3/1. It's a nice way to just play free units from your hand with those other effects. Just get these guys on the board as quick as possible and keep yourself protected while you work on building up that defensive wall. Enforcer Leader can't be piloted while in the battle zone. Other Invid Scout Mecha get +1 weapon, 4/3/1, or it gives +1/+1. Decent buff there, but really just another Enforcer card to be able to put on the board for free with those other effects. A great defensive unit to try to keep yourself alive while you wait on building that wall. Invid Commander, star 3/1. This unit's weapon value is equal to the number of cards in your proto zone. As you can imagine, this card gets increasingly good as the game goes on. Great use of being a 4-cost card. But in a ramp deck, he's a great little mecha. Invid Commander Korg, piloted specifically by Korg if you want to be able to skirmish with it, that's to be able to fight. While in the battle zone, your opponent cannot play actions from their proto zone. Just makes every one of your opponent's energy cards blank while this card's in play. Strong effect. Invid Commander Sarah can only be piloted by Sarah. And when this unit attacks, turn opponent's card face down in the proto zone. Oh, it's face up card face down. So you just choose one of their cards, flip it face down. They can no longer use its effect. And it's a 4/5/2. Pretty decent little mecha there too. 1 cost Scout. These are going to be your early play cards, 0, 1, 2. You can advance this and send it to the discard pile to negate target action effect played from the proto zone. Nice little counter spell on a unit. A good choice to have in the deck. Scout Fighter, 1, 1, 2, basic. This is another one of those cards you could have 85 copies of if you wanted to. But 1, 1, 2, 1 cost. Again, little defender, good speed, so good way to intercept attacks. Target Invid unit gets +1 weapon while attacking. Decent little action effect too. Scout Interceptor, 2 cost 2, 1, 2. Gets +1 speed while intercepting, and it gives the unit +1 speed. This is your intercept unit for the deck, and has kind of the generic 2 cost interceptor stats. Most of the factions have a card like this. This is this one's, and it works pretty well. Shock Trooper, as we saw mentioned earlier in the deck. This card is a 3/1/1. Cannot be piloted. You can advance it to give an Invid +2 weapon. That'd be a hard advance because just a 1 defense, it'd be really easy to hit this card on the crackback. But for a little warrior, 2 cost 3/1/1, not a bad play. Also can give you unit +1 armor as an action. Not bad. The fact that you can use it to the cards earlier in the deck to buff your Shock Trooper cards, this would be a decent mecha to have in the deck. Soldier, 1 cost 1/1/1. You can negate a target civilian ability effect. Again, just a counterspell on a card. You got 2 copies of that. And it's a 1/1/1. Not a bad play either. It is important to remember this is just a land unit though, so it isn't great against a lot of the like Blue Squadron decks and stuff like that do play early space units. But not a bad choice as far as the civilian effect being negated. Specifically too against Blue Squadron, since it would hit the Sterling Child. Got a 2 cost Trooper, 2/2/1, can't be piloted. Trooper gets +1 weapon while defending against land type mecha. This Invid gets +1 weapon. So 3/2/1 is a decent stat, especially if you're defending with it against land types. Most units are both land and space, so this will trigger against those. This would be a good defender. One of the things that you'll find about the Invid deck is that you're not trying to win by battle points by any means. You're definitely trying to win by that ramp strategy, getting to that you win the game effect card. So a lot of the cards are great defensive units. As an Invid carrier, 1 cost 0, 10, 1 vessel. Advance, discard a card, search your deck for a one proto cost Invid mecha, reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle your deck. So just search for cost for a 1 cost card, or your deck for a 1 cost card, put it in your hand. Not a bad play, but it is an advance effect, so you have to put it up into the battle area. Good option on defense if you don't need to block, but a turn 1 10 defense card is pretty strong too. Neutron S missiles as an action. There's the actions from the last deck. I'm sorry. Neutron S missiles. This was an action for the Rebel Forces deck. You have to control the SDF-4. If you do, you send all cards except vessels in play to the discard pile. This is an incredible removal card and definitely makes that SDF-4 card we talked about earlier a lot better option. Glad I found that. And then lastly, Theft by Balloon, a 1 cost action. As a requirement, you control a Rebel character and you have less protoculture than target opponent. Great to play against a deck that's trying to ramp. Restriction play only during your mobilize phase. You place a card from your hand into your proto zone. Essentially lets you play 2 energy for the turn. Not a bad card, actually pretty good, especially against this. If there were sideboards in this game, this card would be amazing. But as a main deck card, it's not a bad option either way. Well, sorry for the confusion on misplacing those cards there, but that is the review of the new generation deck. I don't know how great the Rebel Forces deck would be. You could get a decent little build there going with the Alpha Veritex trying to get into the sort of beta armor mode. Scott is a good pilot, and he's a great buff for the whole faction itself, but with such a limited number of cards, I don't know how good that would really be, especially with those terrible shadow cards. I don't know if that half the deck is great. I do think the Invid deck really could be good. There's a great defensive line there, and the win the game card is a cool effect too. The rule changes is a nice little touch. But stay tuned. We'll go ahead and review some more of these going into the future here. There are, we've done the 2-player starter in this one, so there are 6 other decks that have existed in the game that we'll go ahead and review as we go. Keep an eye out for that. Thanks for hanging out. Until next time, we'll be back with more Robotech. More, eventually have some play videos of the game as well. And a full-fledged how to play will be on its way too. That'll clear up a little bit of the description of some of these cards. But thanks for hanging out. See you next time.